What's good, YouTube? Cardfight King here, AQUA Life Baby. You already know how it is. And today, guys, I'm going to be giving you guys an updated deck profile on my Blue Wave Aqua Force deck for set 9. When I first started testing out this deck, guys, with some of the new things from the set, I already had somewhat of a pre-built build in mind, and testing it out, much like Thavis, struggled really bad. It still felt very sluggish, very slow. I mean, I understand that our game is in a pretty bad state right now, and there's just so many other decks, now that have such strong first stride turns where they build a ton of attrition in their hand, control, gain control of the board, put a lot of pressure on on your damage, and then have the ability to back up into a defensive stance and do have defensive combos. Aqua Force does lack defensive combos, that other decks are getting. And Blue Waves, still have a sluggish first strike. I've always classified Blue Waves as that deck that has a slow start but a big finish. They're really good. They're really strong in the late game, but early game starting out outside of GB, with Foivos and whatnot, and now that we have Damia, it's been really nice with the early game helping out there. But, when it comes to your first stride turn and whatnot, it's still pretty slow and pretty sluggish in terms of gaining control of certain things and putting, a good, decent amount of pressure on your opponent. Obviously, going into Commander Thavis is definitely still the best first stride play that you can do for this deck. We do have another Blue Wave stride unit who I will talk about. But, as I've been testing the deck, my plays have gotten a bit smoother. I've figured out that for what the meta calls for, I feel like there are certain things that should be played in the deck right now. I will talk about that more. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. So with the Gray Zeros, I'm going back to Dagger Master Draco Kid. I usually play Andre, and I play Andre in my Thavis deck. But the reason why I went back to him, Dagger Master, is because this deck needs to build up hand. This deck needs to be able to go in and defend itself. And there, again, from what I've played against in the meta, Gear Chronicles, the new Luard stuff, and whatever it is, some of that stuff just moves a little bit too fast in the first stride. And sometimes you need a card like Dagger Master Draco Kid who can add to your turn, add a little pick me up, add that extra little draw into your play. That little draw there could be the difference between you getting a G Guardian to guard for your next turn, or you not getting anything, and then your hand is a little bit lower. And then if you do G Guard, then going to Tetra Boil and whatnot, you can use him, and you can get that double draw off. So it's kind of like having a fifth Brutal Trooper, the crit trigger, in your deck. I just feel as if what he does for how the game is right now, from what I've seen and from what I've played against, that Dagger Master, really works out and helps you out in the long run. Whereas Andre does help out, and he does give you that extra attack, but that extra attack could come at the cost of you being able to really defend yourself and build up some advantage. This deck already has some really nice pressure plays. So I feel like the starter is a good way to get back into a nice defensive stance when it comes time for that, as well as just building up advantage so that you can pressure your opponent going into your next turn. 4 heal triggers, obviously. Four brutal troopers. Nothing else you can really say about that. Brutal Trooper is the man. Love that crit trigger. Allows you to, on your Tetra Drive, your Tetra Boil turns, allows you to really, that's where your draw comes in. That's where your advantage engine really starts to kick into place, is when, you're able to use the crit triggers on your Tetra Boil turns, as well as Draco Master, so that you can build up a big hand. If you guys saw the live stream, I went from 3 cards to 11 cards in my hand, with the usage of the crit trigger and the starter. It just sets you up for defense and offense for the following turn. Very good card. Now, I don't know if I had this in my last deck profile, guys, but I went back to 4 Supersonic Sailors for a good while, maybe I want to say a month and a half, maybe. I was playing 6 draw and 6 crit. Now, the reason why I was playing 6 draw, 6 crit, partly because I saw a Japanese list and I wanted to try his trigger lineup out, but the other reason was because I really felt like this deck was just really kind of sluggish, and the draw triggers in the early game would help me set up for later, for mid-game and whatnot, and I felt like having those extra draw triggers in there would help. Lo and behold, the draw triggers really didn't help. Obviously, you have to hit them. You have to hit them in order for you to do anything. And even though I did hit them, sometimes you hit a draw trigger, draw into another draw trigger. You draw them into your hand. They're just 5K shields. Don't do too much. And I really feel like this deck, when you get into your mid and late game, this deck needs to start rolling. This deck needs to start beating down on your opponent. You need to start pressuring their Vanguard. You need to really start, pushing them, because you don't want this deck to run out of gas. You really don't want this deck to run out of gas, especially if you cannot get to your brutal troopers, and you don't, don't really have access. If it gets blown up or something to Draco Kid, you really need to get your opponent in a corner. And what better way to do that than by running a nice balance of crits? And I think the 8 crits is definitely what this deck definitely calls for. So running the 8 crit, and obviously the 4 Malikas. I'm running the old ones because I have Thavis who runs the new ones, and this one runs the old ones. That's how it's going to be for right now. This one's a surprise. The other one, you know what you're about to get. All right, on to grade 1. Grade 1s, most of it's fairly simple. 4 Plato, obviously got to have your 4 Plato. I'm flipping Perfect Guards. You can never go wrong with that. This deck definitely does need counter blasts to be able to use to effectively get off a lot of their plays. 4 copies of Nikki. This is a stride-based deck, so you want to be able to stride as often as possible. 3 copies of Stacia. You know why I love Stacia. Stacia, free 9K from the back row. Works extremely well in conjunction with Wailing Thavis and setting him up. Works really well on your Lambros plays to set up other plays with Tylo Assault and whatnot. She also really works well on the Tetra Boil plays, being able to maybe give her plus 3K so she can hit 12 from the back row, or you could just use her as a booster behind your Vanguard. She just has so much versatility in all Aqua Force decks that I just think that she is a staple. And again, she is free. And then I went back to Blue Wave Soldier Bright Shooter for a while when the new set dropped. If I can find him, here he is. I was playing, geez, not him, Kelpie Rider Paul. Paul was an interesting choice. Wave 3rd time or more. When you Soul Blast 1, when he attacks or boosts, and you get to choose 2 of your units, and you give them plus 2,000 till the end of your turn. It was okay, but again, it was 3rd time or more. I wanted something that worked a little bit faster and whatever, and I didn't really find something that works faster because obviously Blue Wave Bright Shooter is 4th battle, but I'm using my Soul Blast for another card in the deck for Damia. Paul is an okay thing, but I feel like being able to add that extra Stride Fighter hand, that extra card in my hand that I can pitch to stride and whatnot. Even in the early game, if I have to discard an Anger Boil for stride, if I can get to the 4th battle and have him boost, I can add that Anger Boil back to my hand so that I have a successful ride the next turn. Even if I damage him early game, heal him off and things like that. So I went back to him in hopes that he would provide a little bit more versatility. Not only that, but he also has Blue Wave in his card name, which is important for the for the new stride Artem that we did receive from the new set. So I'm really hoping that, and I have to test him more, but I'm really hoping that Bright Shooter is gonna make more of a comeback and make some more plays. A lot of the other stuff that we got for Blue Waves, the Stacia clone for Blue Waves at 7K from the back row, I think that card is really bad because he only works on your Tetra Boil turn and he doesn't gain any power. He's just a vanilla 7K. Doesn't really do much. We have Luciano, the grade 2. He's a worse version of Foivos. I mean, I'll say this, we got a lot of things in the set for Aquaforce that are just bad, and only a very, very few amount of things that are actually good. Wailing Thavas being the god of all things that we got, and, you know, one of our key cards. Alright, and on to grade 2. Alright, so grade 2, you know I gotta start with the man that needs no explanation. Tidal Assault. Yes, I did put my holo Tidal Assaults in there. Oh, I'm so happy he's a holographic now. So, yeah, 4 Tidal Assaults. I think I have 16 Tidal... Jesus, I have 16 Tidal Assaults. I hope he never gets banned. 4 Tidal Assaults. The man, the card that makes everything run in Aquaforce generally... it's really hard to play a deck without Tidal Assault, not because of personal bias, but because of what he offers to every single Aquaforce deck. Combos with Lambros, combos with makes Wailing Thavas 100 times better. Being able to get 2 free attacks off, even if it doesn't hit. Getting 2 free attacks off to set up Wailing Thavas. You know, his 2 attacks alone give Wailing Thavas 10,000 power. Think about that. Just an outstanding card early game. 4 copies of Foivos. Again, both of these guys work really well together. Foivos being the better grade 2. Oh no. Sorry about that. I had a really bad camera fail. And I'm already too far along, so I'm not going to stop. So, but like I said, Foivos is a very key card to the deck. Wave 3rd time when you attack with him, and he's only 3rd time only. You counterblast 1, he gains 2,000 power, then at the end of the battle, he restands. So he is a very key card to our early game, mid game, and late game, much as Tidal Assault is. Both of those cards are too important to run at any less than 4. And then I'm running 4 copies of Blue Waves Marine General Damia. She's the newest card that we got to our grade 2 lineup for Blue Waves. Now, I do like her. Her effect is when you're grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Blue Wave and its card name attacks, you may pay the cost of Soul Blast 1. And if you do, you choose your Vanguard and your other rear guard. And those units and this unit gets 2,000 until the end of the turn. So, what does she do is that she powers up herself, your Vanguard, and 1 other rear guard, and one other rear guard with 2,000 power. Now that makes Tidal Assault 11K. That gives Foivos an extra 2K power. That puts Stacia at 11 as well, as her and Tidal go to 11. This card is very key for that factor. But the other thing I really like her is because she has Blue Wave in her name, which means that we don't need to draw into double Foivos in order to get a turn 2 rush play off. We can draw her. She is our ride target in the deck. You want to be able to ride her and then call Tidal and or Foivos to the side so that you can get a nice turn 2 play off. Now on to grade 3. Alright, so for grade 3, obviously we got to go with my main man, my home dog, 2014 All-Star Tetra Drive Dragon. Outstanding card, guys. Just still good. Still really good. Again, against grade 1 7Cs, even though I know the deck's dying, it's not going to happen until the 30th of January. But against grade 1 7Cs, this card's still really good. If you're sitting there pressuring your opponent and you realize that you can just win on your turn 3 ride, depending on how good your grade 1 turn was, your grade 2 pressure turn was, and you can get him off and you can ride him and do his limit break if you're at that point, then I'd say just go ahead and do it. He provides you a really nice option for it. So he's not a bad backup art. Plus, he has Blue Wave in his card name, and he is much better than the new Blue Wave Grade 3 we have. I didn't even bring him with me. That Grade 3 doesn't really offer the deck a lot of things. You still will run into the same problems of, not being able to get certain plays off. But Tetra Drive overall just offers a better, a better game, in case the worst happens. And the worst happens when you don't ride my man, Anger Boil. Now, Anger Boil is obviously the key piece of the deck. He makes your Tetra Boil turns that much better. His GB2 is outstanding, being able to attack on the second battle, restand a unit, and give that unit 10k. He's mini Lambros in a sense. Again, he's still a very powerful stride card, and he's something that we definitely need to focus on riding, which is what our new Grade 4 does help us out with. And on to the strides. Okay, so for the strides, I'm going to go through a few things. Okay, one Seabreeze, obviously. Dismal, Floatia, double, Ice Barrier. I'm still working on my G Guardians. In my Thavis deck profile, you saw 2 Floatias, a 1 Ice Barrier, and a Dismal, so I'm just trying this one out. I might just take out Ice Barrier for a Screw again. Screw is definitely a card that, through more playing, I've been really considering adding back to the deck, but Ice Barrier has saved my behind in a lot of situations, especially from this past tournament experience. So, yeah, it's still work in progress, but let me know what you guys run in your G-Zone. Next, we're just going to introduce the new card. Why not? Screw it. Blue Wave Brave General Artem. So what he does is that his auto ability is that when your rear guard with Blue Wave attacks, the unit gets 3,000 power to end the battle. So he automatically gives any unit that attacks with Blue Wave a 3,000 for the battle. So that means that if you have a Grade 3 in your front row, that'll be 14. With a 7k boost, like from Blue Wave Bright Shooter, that's a 21k row. Makes Foivel's a little bit better too, just pretty much giving him a free 5,000. He goes up to 11 by himself. Add on the 3, he'll go up to 14. Again, 7k boost makes a 21k boosted column. He allows for your Blue Wave units to make a lot of plays. Even Damia, who, let's say, unboosted, wouldn't hit a Vanguard, allows her to be able to poke for 12. So this guy is a pretty nice stride. You can definitely replace him with a Wailing Thopis if you want to. I'm just trying him out just because there. And his other ability is that when you ride him, his active ability, you Soul Blast 1 card with Blue Wave in his card, which is another important reason why you want Damia to be your turn 2 ride. And maybe, if you have to ride Blue Wave Bright Shooter, because if the Soul Blast a Blue Wave, and you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, you search for up to 1 Grade 3 card with Blue Wave. So you search for either Anger or Tetra, but you really only use him. You only use this ability if you need to find Anger among them, and place on your Vanguard as a heart. Shuffle your deck, and then if you placed 1 or more cards, put all of your heart cards other than the cards placed due to this effect into your drop zone. So you pretty much swap your Vanguard essentially. So it's used when you need to get to your Anger Boil ride. Otherwise, you just want to stride him and go for his attack. I still personally find that the Commander Thavis first stride is still a bit of a better play, but when you're in a pinch and you feel like you have damage to give and you really need to ride Anger Boil, go ahead and definitely go stride this guy. Speaking of Commander Thavis, 2 copies of Commander Thavis. I reduced him to 2 copies in this deck because I needed to make room for Wailing Thavis, obviously. And you really just use him as a first stride. Then after that, you have your powerhouse. You have your bigger powerhouse strides: Tetra Boil, Lambros, and Wailing. 2 Lamby Bambi. I want to run 4, but we need to make room for Wailing Thavis. Wailing Thavis. Yes, I did get another SGR one. I'm pretty happy about that. 2 copies of Wailing Thavis. Just a godsend for Aqua Force. You already know how it is. He wins games. He's won at the tournament I was at, and then in some free play games. Wailing Thavas himself has just won me games. Again, you want to find that range to put them in. If your opponent's at 5 damage, Wailing Thavas is possibly the most dangerous card in your stride deck. Even more powerful than Lambros at times. Let me explain why. Because Lambros is a fantastic card, but as I've said before, G-Guardians have definitely hurt Aquaforce as a clan itself. And sometimes if your opponent is sitting there with like 8 cards in hand, they might have enough to guard, especially with G-Guards, turning 2-3 card drops into 1 card drops. You know, Wailing Thavas is a card that can definitely, force them to guard with a G-Guard, and then, really they don't have too anything else, or they're just going to have to burn their whole hand and hope you don't hit some sort of trigger. Wailing Thavas in certain situations is better than Lambros, and Lambros is better than Wailing Thavas in certain situations. But Wailing Thavas also allows you to get your board control back, because he pretty much has an ability to eradicate most, if not all, of your opponent's rear guards. So he is definitely a all-star in the deck. And then 4 copies of Tetra Boil, because he's the main stride of the deck. Works running, him with Brutal Trooper and Dagger Master make a really great combo. Dagger Master on his restand, after his restand, gives him an extra crit, wave 5 or more. Brutal Trooper and Dagger Master both allow you to draw when you attack with him, so his restand is pretty much a plus. Again, if you guys saw the live stream, I went from 3 to 11 cards in my hand just from being on those 2. I think I did hit a draw trigger, but regardless, the point of it is that I built my advantage back so that I can fall back on defense, defend myself well, then pursue on offense and finish my opponent off. So yeah, that's the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Not sure what I want to do next. I might do my brother's Genesis Wiseman deck. I mean, you guys have probably seen a ton of those. It's still cancerous. It's still alive. It's still whatever. But I do need to talk about that stupid restriction list Bushiroad gave us. I think it's really bad, and I will explain why later on. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Cardfight King, and I'm out. Peace. Aqua Life, baby. You already know.